Right, I thought I'd demonstrate this twirl effect. Twirl effect on an image that I've already done it to. This image is processed to go up like this. I then did the twirl effect on this image. The first thing I did, assuming I can remember exactly how I did all this, first thing I did was change the crop to put the rhino more or less in the middle. Duplicate the background, convert to smart object. That's the most important thing to do. And my computer's taking its sweet time. Then we need to pixelate it, and we take the mezzotint. It should pick up picks up my previous settings, which are long strokes down here. You could do anything. I just chose long strokes because it gives me longer pieces of color. We end up with that. We now go filter, blur, radial blur, 100% zoom. Good is, well, good enough. Now it'll be the last filter, so I can just go filter or Control Alt F, do it again, same settings. And a third time. The one thing I forgot to do was resize this thing. Before we get too further down this, you should have done it to start with, but resize it to something smaller than 7,900 pixels across. I've got a default one here I use a lot, so I'll use that. And it's 1920. Right, this will speed things up a bit. We've done the blur. We now go down to distort and we choose twirl and choose 120. Could choose, I recommend 120, 150. I've not experimented with 90, but 120 upwards is best, and I wouldn't generally go past 200. 120 or 150 seem to be the two best options. We get that. We then repeat that. We then go down to the side here and double click on there to change the blending mode. And I think I went for dark blending mode. Do the twirl effect again, but this time make it a negative of what it was. Again, change the blending mode. To lighten, the opposite of the previous one. Now what I do is I go Control Alt Shift E to do a merged layer, copy, edit, transform, flip horizontal, and go to the blending mode for that layer and choose something that will look interesting. These you'll see darken, multiply, lighten, screen. Lighter colour's not too bad. Overlay's not, I preferred darken for this one. Then we want to chuck on a few adjustments. The first adjustment is a curves adjustment. I want to build the contrast. How I build that contrast really depends on the image itself. Normally we want to bring the brights up and the darks down a bit. That gives us that. Another one that's worth looking at is actual brightness and contrast. A little bit. Do another merged layer of it, and this is where I tend to use camera raw filter, because there's two key things in here I want. And if you watch closely at the center of the picture, you'll see what I want first is texture, and generally I'll whack that right the way up. Clarity, you can see clarity is having quite a dramatic effect. I want really strong lines and stuff, and I might even use the vibrance in here. There's two options. You can go bump the vibrance up a bit like that, or bring the vibrance down and bump the saturation up, depending on what you want to accomplish. I'm still deciding, do I want the browns or do I want the yellows? I quite like that effect. Sometimes dehaze can have an interesting effect if you're careful, but because of that I might have to bring the highlights down a little bit and whack the contrast up a bit again, and I get that effect. Now pretty much that's it. I then do a Control-Shift-E to merge all those layers, and then I would resize it back up to full size if I wanted to, which I'm going to do here. So I'd basically boost the size back up to my standard, what it was originally. Well, actually I normally just go to 5400 across. And that's pretty much it. That's the effect we get, which is quite an interesting one.